In the quiet of ancient Greece, stories lived in the wind and the stars above the hills. Every night, travelers gathered around fires to listen and dream of gods and mysteries. Among all the tales, none shone brighter than those of Athena, goddess of wisdom and light. She was known not for strength of arm, but for clarity of mind and kindness of spirit. Her eyes saw deeper than mountains. Her thoughts reached farther than the endless sea. One story tells of a treasure unlike any jewel, a scroll written in shimmering golden ink. It was said to hold secrets beyond time, truths to guide both mortals and immortals alike. The oracle of Delphi whispered of it, a prophecy carried on the breath of the divine. A scroll that could shape the future, not through power, but through understanding. Athena heard this whisper, and her heart stirred with both curiosity and quiet purpose. For wisdom seeks not to conquer, but to illuminate, to teach, and to inspire. So begins our story, a journey through shadows and echoes, towards the golden scroll. Listen closely, for in every word lies a spark of the wisdom she sought to share. The oracle's chamber was quiet, lit only by a faint glow from the sacred flames. The air carried the scent of oil, smoke, and the whispers of countless prayers. Pilgrims knelt in silence, waiting for answers from the mouth of the divine. On this night, the oracle spoke of something rare, a secret hidden beyond mortal reach. Her voice trembled like wind in the pines, yet carried weight that silenced the crowd. "There is a scroll," she said, "a scroll of gold, written not by hands, but by eternity." Her words fell like drops of water into stillness, echoing through the temple walls. The priests listened with awe, their faces pale, for prophecy was never spoken lightly. The oracle continued, her eyes clouded, as if seeing both past and future at once. "This scroll holds truths untold, wisdom not yet spoken, light for those who seek." Her breath grew heavy, her voice carried urgency, and silence deepened around her. "It is not for the proud, nor for the greedy, nor for those who seek dominion. It waits for the one whose mind is open, whose heart carries the flame of clarity." The people exchanged glances, wondering who could ever hold such grace. For the scroll was not said to hold wealth or power, but something more enduring. It was a guide, a mirror, a light that could shape lives with gentle wisdom. Some doubted, whispering among themselves, calling it nothing more than a dream. Others believed, bowing their heads, convinced the gods had revealed a rare gift. The prophecy spread across the land, carried by messengers, poets, and wanderers. In the halls of kings, it was met with suspicion, for rulers desired weapons, not wisdom. In the homes of farmers, it was met with hope, for they longed for guidance, not war. And in the libraries of philosophers, it was met with wonder, like fire meeting air. But above them all, in the high halls of Olympus, the words reached Athena. She listened not with hunger for glory, but with the stillness of a thoughtful heart. For Athena valued wisdom above all treasures, clarity above all victories. The prophecy stirred her spirit, like a call she could not turn away from. She knew that knowledge was fragile, like a spark that must be carefully guarded. Yet knowledge could also grow, spreading from one soul to another, igniting light. Athena asked herself, if such a scroll truly existed, could it guide humanity? Would mortals learn to live not through power, but through balance and reflection? Could words, written in gold, truly change the course of countless generations? Her curiosity deepened, like roots seeking water beneath the earth. The oracle's vision was not a command, but a doorway waiting to be opened. And Athena, unlike the gods of war and thunder, was ready to walk through. She disguised her resolve in silence, letting none see the questions in her eyes. But inside, she knew this was not a tale for mortals alone. This was a mystery woven into the very fabric of time and thought. She imagined the scroll resting somewhere far, untouched by mortal hands, perhaps hidden in a cave where light and shadow danced upon the walls, perhaps kept by a guardian, not fierce, but wise, patient, and eternal, perhaps waiting not for strength, but for stillness, for one who could listen. And so the prophecy became more than words. It became a seed within her mind. It grew each day as she watched mortals live, love, and struggle with questions. Their laughter, their doubts, their songs, all reminded her of the value of truth. She knew that wisdom belonged not to the few, but to the many. And if the golden scroll carried such wisdom, then its light must not be hidden. The oracle had spoken, the prophecy had been born, and Athena had heard. From this night onward, a journey would begin, though no mortal yet knew it. For in the quiet breath of a goddess, destiny had turned its gaze, and the golden scroll waited, patient as the stars, eternal as the sky. Athena stood at the edge of Olympus, her gaze turned toward the mortal world below. The prophecy echoed in her mind, a whisper she could neither dismiss nor forget. Unlike her kin who sought power and dominion, her heart searched only for understanding. She valued clarity above conquest, and knowledge above the fleeting taste of victory. The golden scroll was no promise of wealth, yet it drew her spirit like a flame. Athena wondered why the oracle's words had found her ears so clearly that night. Perhaps fate had chosen her, or perhaps wisdom always seeks those who listen deeply. She walked among the marble halls of the gods, yet her thoughts dwelled among mortals. She recalled their laughter, their doubts, their fragile dreams built with trembling hands. To Athena, their questions were more precious than any answer the gods could give. She thought of the farmers asking for rain, not power, only balance with the earth. She thought of poets longing for inspiration, their words weaving truth into eternity. She thought of children, wide-eyed, eager to learn about stars, seasons, and stories. It was in their voices that Athena felt the weight of the oracle's vision. If the scroll carried wisdom, then it belonged to those who hungered for light. She knew that wisdom unshared was wisdom wasted, a lamp hidden beneath stone. So she decided. She would seek it, not for herself, but for those who dreamed. Still, her heart trembled with questions that even she could not easily answer. Would the scroll reveal truths too vast for mortals to bear without burden? Would it tempt kings to bend its words toward ambition rather than guidance? Would it be lost once again in the silence of time if kept hidden? Athena weighed each thought as carefully as a weaver threads her loom. Her curiosity burned brighter than her doubts, for she trusted in the human spirit. The mortals had faltered, yes, but they had also built wonders of thought and art. If given guidance, they might shape a world of balance, where wisdom ruled gently. Athena resolved that the quest must begin not with power, but with listening. She disguised herself in mortal form, leaving behind the armor and the spear. No crown of Olympus adorned her head, only the humble cloak of a traveler. With quiet steps she descended, walking into the lands where men tilled soil. She wandered through villages, listening to their stories whispered by firelight. She lingered in marketplaces, hearing their laughter mixed with worry and hope. She paused by rivers, where fishermen sang songs of longing to unseen gods. In every word, she found proof that the prophecy had meaning beyond Olympus. The golden scroll was not a prize for a god, but a gift for humanity. Athena's curiosity grew with each passing day, and so did her purpose. She no longer asked whether she should search, but where the path would lead. The oracle's words were a riddle, each syllable carrying both mystery and promise. The scroll was hidden, not by chains, but by time and choice. It would not be found by might, but by clarity of thought and patience. Athena smiled, for patience was the strength she carried above all others. She knew that wisdom does not rush. It waits, it listens, it grows. And so the goddess of wisdom set her heart upon the journey. The world held its breath, unaware that its fate was quietly shifting. A goddess walked among them, her eyes alight with curiosity and gentle resolve. The quest for the golden scroll had begun, not with thunder, but with silence. Not with force, but with listening, as wisdom always begins. And Athena carried within her the promise of a light meant to be shared. Athena walked through the narrow streets of a small village, her cloak drawn close around her. The scent of bread drifted from ovens, mixed with the smoke of hearths and the sound of voices. Children played with stones and sticks, their laughter rising like birds into the evening air. Elders sat in circles, telling stories of the past, their words heavy with both pride and sorrow. Athena listened carefully, for she sought more than sights. She sought the heartbeat of humanity. Each voice carried a truth, a fragment of wisdom, hidden beneath the weight of daily toil. A farmer spoke of his struggle with the seasons, wishing for rain, but fearing the storm. His words taught Athena that balance was more precious than abundance or power. A weaver sang softly at her loom, her fingers weaving both cloth and memory into her thread. Athena saw that patience and rhythm were forms of wisdom, quiet yet enduring. At the well, women gathered, trading stories of hardship, of joy, of dreams for their children. Athena realized that hope was a kind of wisdom too, guiding hearts through shadow. She paused by a poet reciting verses in the square, his words trembling yet radiant. He spoke of the stars as guides for the soul, not only for sailors crossing seas. Athena smiled, for she knew that wisdom often revealed itself in poetry and song. As night fell, the village gathered around a fire, its flames rising against the dark. Stories were told of gods and heroes, of battles fought and victories won. Yet among these tales, Athena noticed, none spoke of wisdom as the greatest strength. Mortals celebrated power and cunning, but rarely did they honor patience and clarity. She understood then why the oracle's prophecy had been spoken with such urgency. The golden scroll was not just a treasure, it was a remedy for forgetting. Humanity needed reminders that strength of spirit surpassed strength of arm, that truth and compassion could shape destinies more deeply than fear or force. Athena rose before the crowd, her mortal disguise cloaking her divine presence. Her voice was calm, clear, and carried like a string of silver notes across the square. "Stories are powerful," she said. "But what if wisdom itself could be your greatest tale?" The villagers turned, surprised by the stranger, yet drawn to her steady gaze. She spoke of questions more precious than answers, of choices shaping tomorrow's path. She told them that wisdom was a light within, a flame no storm could extinguish. The crowd listened, silent, as though hearing their own thoughts given voice. When she finished, no applause rose. Only the deep quiet of hearts stirred awake. Athena smiled gently, for she did not seek worship, only understanding. In their eyes, she saw reflection, curiosity, and a spark of belief. Later that night, as the village slept, Athena walked to the edge of the fields. The stars shone above her, each one a reminder of countless paths yet unseen. She thought of the oracle's words again, of the scroll written in golden ink. If such wisdom could be woven into the hearts of mortals, what might they become? She felt the weight of the journey ahead, long and uncertain, yet filled with purpose. For the scroll was not hidden by distance alone, but by the readiness to receive it. The voices she had heard were proof. Humanity longed for guidance, even in silence. Athena knew she must continue walking, listening, gathering truths from many lives. The path to the golden scroll was not one of roads, but of understanding. It would lead her through shadows, across rivers, and into the heart of time. Yet she carried no fear, only resolve, for the wisdom does not falter beneath doubt. The night wind carried the laughter of children and the whispers of old songs. And Athena carried within her a promise that the light of wisdom would not fade. Athena's journey carried her beyond the villages, toward the rising slopes of a mountain vast and strange. The people called it the Mountain of Echoes, a place where every sound lingered long after it was spoken. Its peaks were wrapped in silver mist, and its cliffs gleamed faintly as though carved from memory itself. Travelers warned that those who entered its valleys might lose themselves in voices of their own making. Athena walked with calm steps, her cloak brushing the stones, her eyes fixed on the shifting fog ahead. The wind whispered around her, carrying fragments of voices that seemed both near and impossibly far. At first, she heard the laughter of children, then the cries of merchants, then the soft chants of priests. Each sound echoed upon itself, layering into a chorus that blurred past and present together. Athena paused, listening with care, for she knew wisdom often hid in the spaces between voices. The mountain seemed alive, speaking not through command, but through reflection. When she spoke aloud, her own words returned, reshaped, like questions folded into riddles. "What is truth?" she asked, and the echoes returned. "What is truth? Truth. Truth." She understood then that the mountain was not meant to answer, but to reveal her own mind. The silence between echoes taught her patience, a reminder that wisdom waits before it speaks. Deeper she climbed, and the mist thickened, wrapping her like a shroud of memory. Her steps stirred no beasts, no travelers, only the endless repetition of sound. Soon she came to a vast hollow where the air shimmered like glass, bending light into fragments. Here, the echoes grew stronger, carrying voices she did not remember speaking. She heard the cry of mortals asking for guidance, their words carried from villages far below. She heard the laughter of gods on Olympus, proud and distant, like thunder beyond mountains. And then she heard something else, a whisper softer than breath, yet filled with clarity. "Athena," it said, "wisdom is not found in the noise, but in the stillness it leaves behind." The voice was not her own, nor the echo of another, but the mountain itself. Athena closed her eyes, letting silence settle over her like calm water. For the first time since leaving Olympus, she felt the path ahead growing sharper. The golden scroll could not be found through answers alone, but through reflection. The mountain had given her no treasure, no object, no sign, yet it gave her more. It showed her that wisdom requires listening not only to others, but to the self. As she descended from the hollow, the echoes grew softer, fading into gentle murmurs. The mist parted, and for a moment she saw the valley below bathed in gold light. She carried the lesson within her, a truth as clear as the air upon the peak. When she returned to the mortal paths, Her steps were lighter, her gaze more certain. The mountain had stripped away noise, leaving only clarity like a sharpened blade of the thought. Athena knew her journey would grow harder, but she also knew she carried strength unseen. The oracle's prophecy was no longer a distant riddle. It had become a living guide. She whispered to the wind, "Wisdom is not in the echo, but in the silence it leaves." The air carried her words across the land, as though the mountains still listened. Athena turned her face toward the horizon, where rivers shimmered and forests stretched eternal. Ahead lay more trials, not of war or strength, but of mind and heart. She walked on, calm as the dawn, her spirit steady as the stars above. The golden scroll waited still, and each step carried her closer to its light. Athena's path led her from the mountains into a valley filled with olive trees swaying under golden sunlight. The air was warm and fragrant, carrying the scent of earth, fruit, and the promise of quiet wisdom. Here the world seemed softer, as if time itself moved slower beneath the shade of the ancient groves. Athena walked with steady steps, her eyes tracing the silver-green leaves that shimmered like tiny stars. The olive tree had always been her gift to mortals, a symbol of peace, sustenance, and enduring strength. In this valley, she felt her presence echoed, not in words, but in the roots and branches around her. She paused beside the oldest tree, its trunk wide and gnarled, its bark etched by centuries of wind. Placing her hand upon it, she felt a pulse, a rhythm, as though the earth itself was breathing. The tree whispered through its leaves, and Athena listened, for she knew nature carried truths unspoken. "Wisdom grows slowly," the rustling said. "Deep roots before tall branches. Patience before fruit." Athena closed her eyes, letting the lesson sink into her heart like rain sinking into soil. Her journey was not a race to seize knowledge, but a path of growth, slow and unshaken. As she reflected, footsteps approached, soft upon the grass, carrying the weight of human presence. A young woman appeared, dressed in simple linen, carrying a basket of olives freshly gathered. She bowed gently, unaware at first of the goddess's true nature, her voice warm as morning. "Stranger, you walk among our trees," she said. "May you share in our harvest and rest." Athena smiled, grateful for the kindness, and accepted an olive offered with humble grace. As she tasted the fruit, its bitter sharpness softened into a lingering sweetness on her tongue. The girl sat beside her, speaking of the valley, of seasons, of joy, and of quiet struggle. Athena listened, not interrupting, for wisdom often lay hidden in the stories of mortal. The girl spoke of droughts endured, of harvests saved, of hope carried from one season to the next. Her words were not grand, but they carried truth, the truth of endurance, patience, and care. Athena asked gently, "And how do you keep hope alive when the land grows harsh and empty?" The girl looked at the olive trees and said, "Because they endure, we endure. They teach us patience." Athena felt the weight of the words, realizing that the golden scroll's wisdom was mirrored here, not in temples or mountains, but in the daily lives of those who lived close to the earth. As the sun lowered, painting the valley with amber light, Athena rose and touched the old tree again. She whispered, "Roots before branches, patience before fruit, endurance before wisdom." The grove seemed to glow, as if the trees themselves acknowledged her understanding and blessed her path. The young woman watched in silence, sensing something greater in the stranger before her. But Athena did not reveal her divine name, for wisdom does not always declare itself loudly. She left the grove as evening fell, the sound of rustling leaves lingering in her heart. Her steps carried her beyond the valley, toward lands unknown, but her spirit had deepened. The olive grove taught her that wisdom is not rushed nor seized, but grown through time and care. The golden scroll would not reveal itself to the impatient, but to the one who listens and waits. Athena walked beneath the first stars, calm as the night, her purpose renewed by the grove's gift. Each step echoed the quiet truth. Wisdom is a harvest grown from the soil of patience. Athena's path took her next to the banks of a river that shimmered beneath the morning sun. Its waters flowed wide and steady, carrying reflections of sky, trees, and distant mountains upon its surface. The river sang as it moved, a song not of words, but of rhythm, endless and unbroken through the ages. Athena knelt at the edge, touching the cool surface, feeling the strength of its steady current. Water has no form, she thought, yet it shapes valleys, nourishes roots, and carries life across the earth. As she listened, the river seemed to speak, not with a single voice, but with countless murmurs. Each ripple held a message, each wave a memory of rain, storm, or melting snow far away. The sound drew her into reflection, and she wondered if wisdom, like water, could flow unseen. Her thoughts were broken by laughter carried upon the breeze, light and full of life. From the reeds emerged children, their feet splashing as they played along the shallow banks. They carried small boats made of bark and leaves, setting them upon the water with care. Athena watched as the boats drifted, spinning, carried by the current beyond the children's reach. The children clapped and shouted, delighting in the river's power to carry their little creations. One child approached her shyly, holding a boat tied with twine, its mast a thin twig. "Stranger," the child said, "will you place this one for me? It may sail farther from your hands." Athena smiled and took the boat, placing it gently upon the flowing surface of the river. The little vessel spun, then straightened, carried swiftly by the water's patient pull downstream. The child's eyes widened with joy, as though watching a dream carried toward distant lands. Athena rose and walked beside the flowing current, her mind reflecting on what she had seen. The river asked for nothing, yet it carried everything, guiding all without judgment or demand. It gave freely and endlessly, never keeping, always moving, always nourishing whatever lay along its path. She thought of mortals who cling to knowledge, hoarding it as if it were a treasure of gold. But wisdom, like water, was not meant to be locked away, but shared, carried, and passed on. As the sun climbed higher, fishermen came with nets, casting them wide into the moving stream. They greeted her kindly, their hands worn, their movements practiced with generations of patience. One spoke of the river's moods, of floods that brought danger, of droughts that tested their hope. Yet always they returned, trusting its rhythm, knowing that even when harsh, the river gave life. Athena listened and understood that wisdom too could be like this, gentle at times, stern at others. It was not always easy, nor always kind, but always necessary, shaping lives with its lessons. She placed a stone into the water, watching as ripples spread outward in perfect rings. Each ring touched another, carrying movement farther than her eyes could follow downstream. Wisdom, she thought, is not for oneself alone, but for others it may reach unseen. The river did not speak in riddles or echoes, but in its steady and unbroken flow. When she rose to leave, she bowed slightly to the water, as if honoring an ancient teacher. The children's laughter still lingered in the air, light as sunlight, bright as flowing silver. Athena walked on, the river's rhythm echoing in her heart with each step she took. She carried its lesson with her. Wisdom must flow, shared freely, or it will wither away. Ahead, the land stretched wide, hills rising like guardians of the horizon, waiting for her steps. Athena's gaze held steady, her spirit deepened by river and grove, mountain and voice. The golden scroll was still hidden, but its truths grew closer with every path she walked. And so she moved forward, calm as the river, her wisdom carried like water through the world. Athena's path turned toward the sea, where the horizon stretched endless and the waves sang eternal songs. The air was sharp with salt, the breeze carrying the cries of gulls and the rhythm of the tide. She stood upon a cliff, watching the water move with a power both untamed and endlessly patient. The sea, she thought, was like wisdom itself, deep, mysterious, always revealing, never fully known. Her gaze followed a ship far below, its sails white against the blue, carried by unseen currents. The vessel glided smoothly, yet Athena knew every voyage upon the sea carried danger and hope alike. She descended the rocky path to the shore, where fishermen were mending their nets upon the sand. Their hands worked with practiced care, repairing holes, tying knots, whispering to one another softly. One man looked up and greeted her, offering a place by the fire where driftwood crackled warmly. Athena accepted, listening to their talk of storms, of lost boats, of days when the sea was calm. Their voices carried both respect and fear for the ocean that gave and took with equal measure. One fisherman said, "The sea teaches us that nothing is ours to keep, only borrowed for a while." Another added, "We cast our nets, but we cannot command the tide. We can only trust and wait." Athena heard their wisdom hidden in simple words, born not from scrolls, but from lived experience. As night fell, she walked alone upon the shore, her feet leaving prints washed away by waves. The sea whispered, pulling and retreating, its song endless, its lessons woven into the rhythm of time. She thought of mortals chasing power, building walls and ships, forgetting that even stone yields to water. The waves reminded her that strength lies not in resistance, but in persistence and movement. Far out at sea, lightning flickered faintly, a storm brewing, yet the waters at her feet were calm. She understood then that wisdom accepts both storm and stillness, knowing both are part of the whole. The tide rose higher, lapping at her ankles, and she whispered, "Teach me to endure, as you do." In that moment, the water shimmered, and a seashell rolled gently onto the shore before her. Its spiral gleamed like gold, delicate yet strong, shaped by endless years of the sea's embrace. Athena picked it up, holding it close, hearing the echo of waves within its hollow chamber. The shell was not the golden scroll, yet it carried a truth just as valuable to her. It spoke of patience, of persistence, of quiet shaping power that leaves no mark but changes all. She carried it with care, knowing it would remind her of the sea's silent teaching. The night grew deeper. Stars scattered across the sky like sparks upon a vast, dark canvas. The sea reflected them faintly, as if holding a mirror to the heavens above Olympus itself. Athena lifted her eyes to the constellations, feeling their watchful presence over her wandering path. The golden scroll was still hidden, yet each step revealed truths that guided her closer to it. She turned from the sea, carrying its lesson in her heart. Wisdom endures as waves upon stone. Her footprints vanished behind her, but her journey pressed forward, steady as the endless tide. Athena's spirit, like the sea, was deepening, widening, and preparing to embrace all it would find. The wind carried her onward, toward lands unseen, where new voices and truths awaited her steps. And so, beneath the stars and with the sea's song behind her, Athena continued her sacred quest. Athena's steps carried her inland, away from the sea's song, toward valleys green and filled with quiet life. The air was softer here, scented with wildflowers, and the hills rolled like gentle waves of the earth. She paused to watch deer graze in silence, their ears alert, their movements calm and purposeful. Every creature, she thought, lives by rhythm, guided not by scrolls or temples, but by harmony with nature. A river wound through the valley, its surface glistening, carrying sunlight like threads of silver over smooth stones. Children played along its banks, laughing as they skipped stones that danced briefly before sinking below. Athena smiled, for their joy was pure, untouched by fear or the hunger for endless power. A mother called them back, her voice carrying warmth, her hands weaving baskets of reeds. The scene was simple, yet it spoke of balance, each life connected, each task shaping the whole. Athena moved closer, greeted with kindness, as if she were just another traveler upon the earth. They offered her water from a clay cup, cool and sweet, drawn fresh from the flowing stream. As she drank, she listened to their stories, tales of planting, of harvest, of weather that blessed or tested. No wars, no palaces, no thrones, just the steady rhythm of life lived in respect for the land. One elder said, "We do not own the river. We walk beside it, and it teaches us how to live." Athena heard wisdom in their words, born not of study but of presence, of walking with the earth daily. A child asked her, "Where do you come from?" And her heart softened at the innocence in his voice. "I come from far," she said gently, searching for truths that hide in the hearts of people and places. The child smiled and handed her a flower, small, fragile, yet radiant with life in its fleeting bloom. Athena tucked it behind her ear, knowing the gesture carried more meaning than many grand offerings. As dusk fell, the villagers lit fires, and their songs rose like threads woven into the night sky. Their voices carried no grandeur, only joy, love, and the shared strength of being together. Athena sat among them, watching the sparks rise upward, reminding her of constellations she had followed for days. One song told of rivers, carving valleys, of time-shaping stone, of patience greater than human ambition. She realized that wisdom was not only written in scrolls or temples, but sung in voices and lived daily. The elder beside her said softly, "We hold no treasures here, only stories. They are our scrolls of gold." Athena's eyes widened, for the words echoed like prophecy, guiding her closer to the golden scroll itself. She understood then that perhaps the scroll was not only an object, but a mirror of lived truth. Her heart grew lighter, filled with gratitude, as she saw each lesson weaving into her quest's greater pattern. The night grew deep, the stars above shining steady, and the fires burned low with gentle warmth. Athena rose, thanking the villagers, carrying their kindness and wisdom like a lantern in her heart. They gave her bread wrapped in cloth, humble yet filled with care, a gift more precious than gold. As she walked into the night, the river followed her path, its sound constant, its current guiding. She whispered to herself, "The scroll lies ahead, but its voice is already here in every soul I meet." Her journey stretched forward into hills unknown, yet her steps were lighter, her spirit steadier, her purpose clear. And so, under the moon's watchful glow, Athena pressed on, seeking truth in the golden thread of life. Athena's path led her into the mountains, where the air grew thin and the sky pressed closer to the earth. The peaks towered above, their crowns wrapped in mist, their slopes carved by winds older than memory. She climbed slowly, each step steady, her breath visible in the cool air that whispered through the stones. The silence here was vast, broken only by the echo of her footsteps and the cry of distant hawks. Rocks shifted beneath her sandals, yet she pressed on, drawn by something deep within the mountain's presence. At a bend in the trail, she saw a hermit seated upon a stone, his eyes closed in stillness. His robe was simple, worn thin by time, his hands resting calmly as if holding the weight of nothing. Athena approached quietly, sensing wisdom in his stillness, as if the mountain itself had shaped his silence. Without opening his eyes, he spoke. "Traveler, you seek something golden, but do you know what gold truly is?" Athena paused, then answered, "Gold is value, a light that guides, a truth hidden yet calling to be found." The hermit smiled faintly, opening his eyes, which shone like clear pools untouched by storm or shadow. He said, "Gold is not what glitters. Gold is what endures, what shapes without force, what nourishes without claim." Athena listened, feeling his words sink deeper than stone, reshaping her thoughts as water reshapes a riverbank. The hermit lifted a stone and placed it in her palm, heavy, ordinary, plain in every way. "This is gold," he said softly, "when you see not with eyes of desire, but with eyes of truth." Athena studied the stone, its rough surface holding quiet strength, unchanging yet full of hidden stories. She asked, "Do you know of the golden scroll?" And her voice carried both hope and solemn patience. The hermit closed his eyes again. "The scroll is not far, yet distance is not measured in steps alone." She understood he spoke of the journey within, the path carved through mind and heart, not only land. He continued, "Climb higher. Listen to the wind. The mountain will tell you what no man can teach." Athena bowed in respect, thanking him for his gift of silence and words, and continued her climb upward. The trail grew steeper, the stones sharper, yet her spirit felt lighter, lifted by unseen strength. At last, she reached a ridge where the wind howled like an ancient choir singing across eternity. She stood tall, hair whipped by the gusts, her gaze sweeping across valleys, rivers, forests, and the distant sea. The world lay before her, vast and endless, yet connected, each part bound to another in unseen harmony. The wind spoke in its language, carrying voices of time, of change, of patience, greater than human grasp. She closed her eyes, letting the sound wash through her, filling her with calm and unshakable clarity. The mountain, she realized, was not a barrier, but a teacher, each step a lesson of endurance and vision. She thought of mortals chasing wealth, blind to the stones beneath their feet, each stone a truth ignored. The golden scroll might be written on parchment, but its essence was already inscribed across the living world. As the sun set behind the peaks, the sky blazed with fire, and shadows stretched long across the valleys. Athena whispered, "I walk not for gold, but for wisdom that shines brighter than any treasure." With the stone still in her hand, she descended the ridge, carrying the mountain's voice within her. The path ahead was uncertain, but her heart was steady, her mind sharpened by truth, her purpose alight. And so, under the fading glow of day, Athena pressed forward, closer than ever to the golden scroll. Athena descended into a vast plain where golden fields stretched wide beneath the endless dome of the sky. The land glowed under the sun, its grains swaying like waves, each stalk whispering secrets of patience and time. Farmers worked steadily, guiding oxen, sowing seeds, their hands rough yet steady with years of quiet labor. Athena paused to watch, marveling at how each movement spoke of discipline, rhythm, and faith in unseen growth. One woman offered her a seat by the shade of an olive tree, where baskets of wheat lay full. They spoke of seasons, of waiting, of harvests both plentiful and scarce. Each year, a new lesson in humility. Athena listened deeply, for their words carried truth. Nothing blooms without time, and nothing is gained without care. Children ran nearby, chasing each other through the rows, their laughter blending with the rustle of grain. The woman said softly, "We are keepers, not owners. We tend the earth, but it belongs to itself." Athena thought of kingdoms fighting for land, blind to the truth that land cannot be held, only honored. She asked, "Do you ever fear losing what you plant?" And the woman smiled gently in reply. "Fear is wasted," she said. "The earth takes, the earth gives. Our task is to trust, not to own." Athena felt the weight of her words, heavier than gold, yet light as the breeze moving the wheat. As night drew near, the farmers gathered for a meal, bread and olives shared upon simple wooden boards. Their gratitude filled the air, not for wealth or conquest, but for another day of life and labor. Athena joined them, tasting bread warm from the fire, humble yet rich with the essence of devotion. Their songs rose into the twilight, voices praising the cycle of seed, sun, and soil that sustained all. One elder sang, "The scroll of wisdom is written not on paper, but in the turning of seasons." Athena's heart stirred, for his words echoed the truths she had gathered across the mountains, rivers, and seas. She realized the golden scroll was more than parchment. It was the living script of the world itself. Yet still, she felt its call, as if it awaited her hand, a symbol binding all these truths together. When the fire burned low, she stood, thanking the farmers for their gifts of food, song, and wisdom. They pressed a loaf of bread into her hands, saying, "Carry this with you, for it holds our spirit." Athena bowed, her voice steady. "Your bread is more than food. It is a scroll written in kindness." She walked into the plain, the stars above her bright, their constellations like letters upon the night. The wheat swayed around her, golden under the moonlight, as if the fields themselves whispered a blessing. She felt strength in her steps, as though the land carried her forward, steady and unwavering. Her journey was not yet complete, but each place, each soul, had written another line upon her path. The golden scroll was close now. She felt it not in distance, but in the deepening of her spirit. As the wind carried the scent of harvest, Athena whispered, "I walk with truth, not to own it, but to share it." And so, with bread in her hands and wisdom in her heart, she pressed onward through the golden plain. Athena's journey carried her to a quiet grove, where ancient trees stood tall, their branches woven like a temple. The air was hushed, filled with the fragrance of earth and leaves, as though the world itself held its breath. At the grove's heart, upon a pedestal of stone, rested the golden scroll, glowing softly in the twilight. Its light was not blinding but gentle, like dawn spreading across the horizon, promising clarity and renewal. Athena stepped forward slowly, her heart steady, her spirit filled with the lessons gathered from her long path. The sea had taught her endurance, the mountains strength, the fields patience, and the people truth in simplicity. Every step, every voice, every gift had prepared her to face the wisdom the scroll carried within. She reached out, her fingers brushing the parchment, warm as if alive, humming with an eternal resonance. The words upon it glowed faintly, not written in ink, but etched in threads of golden light. They shifted as she read, not fixed, but flowing, adapting like the living truths of the world itself. The scroll spoke without sound, and yet she heard clearly, deep within the chambers of her heart. Wisdom is not to be held, but shared, not to be owned, but lived, not gold, but light. Athena felt the truth ring through her, a harmony with all she had witnessed, all she had gathered. She saw the sea's persistence, the mountain's strength, the river's song, the harvest's patience, all woven into one. The scroll did not command her to keep it, but to carry its light within and beyond herself. Athena lifted it gently, and for a moment the grove shimmered, leaves glowing with reflected golden light. But then, as she held it close, the scroll dissolved into radiance, vanishing into her very being. It had never been meant to rest upon stone, but within the hearts of those ready to carry it. Athena stood still, filled with its presence, no scroll in hand, yet more complete than ever before. She understood now. Her quest was not about finding treasure, but becoming a vessel of its wisdom. She turned from the grove, the golden glow lingering in her eyes, her steps calm and unshaken. The trees whispered as she passed, their leaves swaying as if bowing to the truth she carried. The path back stretched before her, yet it no longer felt like a burden, but a sacred offering. Athena would walk among mortals again, not as a bearer of secrets, but as a guide and teacher. She would remind them that the golden scroll was not hidden in groves, but in the living world. In the kindness of strangers, in the patience of seasons, in the strength of endurance, wisdom always lived. As dawn broke across the horizon, Athena lifted her gaze to the rising sun, its light warm and pure. The sky blazed with gold, and she whispered, "The scroll is eternal, because truth is eternal, alive in all." Her heart was quiet, her mind clear, her spirit unshakable, carrying the light where shadows once lingered. The world awaited her return, and she was ready, not as a seeker, but as a keeper of truth. Thus ended her quest. Yet truly, it was only a beginning, a circle turning, wisdom flowing unbroken. For the golden scroll was never lost and never found. It was always here, waiting to be lived.